One of the best nights in my football career.
Dreams were coming true for me at that time.
We could get out of this situation. You know, we could win something.
Hibs was an absolutely fantastic club who'd been through a real rough point, a real low point in their history.
I think the emotions were more for the fans at that time. They were in danger of their club going out of business.
I'd seen bad times at Hibs before then, but this was obviously a lot worse.
This is the story of the club that wouldn't die. And it begins in 1989 when Hibernian became the first football team in Scotland to float itself in the stock market. To Hibs' famously fanatical supporters, this was the opportunity of a lifetime. And thousands became proud shareholders in the club they loved.
The most important person at Easter Road isn't Alec Miller, it's you, Hibs fans.
The problem was that the men who ran the club had the business acumen of Del Boy Trotter. And after a series of dubious deals, by 1991, Hibs were in financial crisis. And then the unthinkable happened.
The Scottish Premier Division club, Heart of Midlothian, have made a £6 million takeover bid for their Edinburgh neighbours, Hibernian.
The Hearts chairman Wallace Mercer strode into an Edinburgh hotel this afternoon to announce the boldest takeover bid British football has ever heard.
To know that your local rivals were planning on taking you over, it was a hard thing to stomach.
That there was considerable merit in Edinburgh and the Lothians combining together the two principal clubs to try and create one unit.
I don't know why Wallace Mercer would have taken that on in the first place. He must have known the strength of feeling and the trouble that he'd bring upon himself, really.
If the takeover bid goes through, Hibs will find themselves on the losing end. Their name wiped from the Scottish football map after over a century in the game.
But I don't think he realised that the intensity between the Hearts and the Hibs fans, the rivalry, and for want of a better word, the hatred.
Don't believe it, no, can't believe it.
You going to go yourself?
Go where?
Go to a new club?
No danger, no danger.
He was getting death threats and all this sort of stuff at that particular time.
Faced with the prospect of losing their club forever, outraged Hibs fans launched a dramatic rescue operation. Tens of thousands of them mobilised, and the Hands Off Hibs campaign was born. If Wallace Mercer was going to take over their club, he'd have to walk over a lot of dead bodies in Leith to get to it.
This is not a merger, this is a takeover of this great club.
People were losing their jobs because of this. People were turning up at the stadium, on the rallies, missing time at their work.
I think Wallace Mercer underestimated the Hibs fans and their passion and their feelings for the club. To treat the club like a business was the wrong thing to do. And in the end, it was the Hibs supporters who shone through and showed their passion and their drive for the club and wouldn't let them anywhere near it.
And they did that by going to someone who had absolutely no interest in football whatsoever. The Leith-born entrepreneur who gave the world Quick Fit, multi-millionaire Sir Tom Farmer.
They played an ace card, actually, these guys, and they came along very emotional. And it was obvious it was something that was very important to them. And they said, listen, this is a Leith team. It's not really a Leith team, it's a Scottish team, an Edinburgh team. But they said it's a Leith team. But more important, do you know that your grandfather and his brother 100 years ago in 1891 stepped in to save the Hibs when they were just about going into extinction? And they played that card. And so anyway, I decided that I would try to do something to help them. And that's when it all started.
Sir Tom Farmer's grandfather and great-uncle saved Hibs from closure by donating £5 to the club. Still a small fortune in 1891. Sir Tom started with about 300,000 in loose change and has continued to invest in the high bees ever since. Tom Farmer 1, Wallace Mercer 0. Who says you can't buy a result in football, eh?
Gave me an opportunity to pull his leg about it. There you go, look at that, Wallace, right? Yeah, I see they're having another go at you. But no, but Wallace could shrug it off. He was a strong guy, and he knew at the end of the day, right, what he was trying to do was something that he actually passionately believed in it.
So Hibs fans had finally succeeded in saving their club from extinction, and were quite rightly ecstatic. But Sir Tom must have felt like he'd done a deal with Dell and Rodney. He'd just bought a company in dire financial straits, with assets that bizarrely included a string of trendy wine bars in Bath, as well as the football team languishing in the lower reaches of the Premier League.
There was no morale. Everybody that was associated with the club was down. There was no real leadership. There was no buzz, nothing, and it was pretty bad.
Hibs got off to a fantastically bad start in the 1990-91 season, losing 2-0 at Aberdeen, followed by a shock 1-0 League Cup defeat at Raith Rovers, and another 2-goal loss at Celtic Park. But none of that really mattered. What mattered was the fast-approaching Edinburgh derby against arch-rivals Hearts. This was their first meeting since the failed takeover bid, and after the humiliation of Wallace Mercer's attack, Hibs could not afford to lose. This match wasn't about football. It was about pride.
Both sides wanted to win it, and I think after the takeover bid, everybody knew this was a powder keg.
There was always going to be a problem, because I think it built up and built up.
Miller getting the touch to it. Robertson's in there. Robertson doing well. And the deflection, it's a goal for Hearts!
It was pretty vile.
But to have an incident on the field, disgraceful scenes, these quite dreadful scenes. Levine with a header and a ball in the net, and it's John Robertson, I think, getting the final touch. The ball through to Foster, he's got Robertson in the middle. John Robertson, what a goal by Hearts!
Hibs lost 3-0. For Hibs players and fans, the outlook had never seemed so bleak.
Once you play the Hearts and you get beat, you never forget it.
And there in fact goes the final whistle.
Every time you lose to your closest rivals, it leaves a horrible taste in your mouth, but just that game especially was very, very hard to take. It's with you all the time, wherever you go, wherever you drink, wherever you eat, but that's football.
My heart was broken.
Sunshine on Leith? Someone misread the weather forecast.
I think it was just one of those seasons for Hibs where everything seemed to go wrong. If it could go wrong, it went wrong.
I think we went a period of 16 games without a win, and it just wasn't what the fans were looking for.
But from behind the clouds came a shaft of light. Somehow, manager Alex Miller managed to persuade Murdo MacLeod to return home from German giants Borussia Dortmund. Some thought MacLeod's decision to come to Hibs a little strange. Others thought it was just plain madness.
We've been through a very sticky time. They survived that. They're going to get stronger, and I'm just glad to be part of it.
I arrived at the club and my debut was at Tannadice, always very tough up there, and I thought, goodness, what a place to start. We went up there, and I always remember, played really well and nothing each, and I felt the team played fairly well as well, and I thought, well, it's a good side, a lot of good players on the side. And then I think it must have been about the 90th minute, their goalkeeper just launched a ball the length of the pitch, and Willie Miller, who was playing right back at the time, Willie just let the ball go over his head, and he ran back, he just volleyed it, and he's lifted the ball over the goalkeeper into the net for an own goal in the 90th minute. And I thought, well, that's all that my good headlines away that we're no starting with a point at Tannadice, and I didn't realise at the time that's the way the season was going to continue between then and the end of the season. I think it was a really shit season for us.
Right enough, the season was going down the pan. After losing 2 crucial games to St Johnstone and St Mirren just before Christmas, Hibs were bottom of the table and had lost so many matches that even with half the season still to go, they were favourites for relegation.
I don't think any player doesn't want to go down as being in the team that they were relegated in that particular year.
Getting abuse from your own supporters, you're getting abuse from other supporters. You're getting abuse everywhere simply because you're failed.
The most popular chant in the terraces that season, just 3 words.
Miller must go! Miller must go! Miller must go!
The fans want to see a winning team. They don't care whether you've got injuries, whether you've no finance or not. They want to see a winning team. The unfortunate thing as well is I came from Glasgow. I played with Glasgow Rangers, which didn't go down too well with the Hibs supporters, so...
By the new year of 1991, Hibs had gone 11 games without a win. Relegation looked inevitable. Prayer seemed the only option. But God works in mysterious ways, and lo it was, the Scottish Football League answered their plea.
At the end of this season, there will be no relegation from the Premier Division, and the top 2 teams in the First Division will be promoted to the Premier Division, giving a 12-12-14 setup for next season.
It was just a massive relief for us all, you know. I think everybody realises you're still in the big division, you know, and that's the main thing.
But just when it appeared safe to stroll down to Easter Road for the start of the new season, the newspapers were once again dusting down their crisis headlines. This time, the club had gone into receivership.
It came as a shock to everyone, because all of a sudden they're looking and what's happening here? Are we going to have another campaign of saving the club, or are we going to the wall? Are we going to get paid?
A statement issued by the receiver said it was expected the club's future would be resolved once its finances were unravelled from those of Fourth Investments.
Things may have seemed bleak to the players, but actually in the boardroom, Tom Farmer had everything under control. Now listen very carefully.
When he went to receivership, the receiver then sold the football club and sold the property. And he kept the holding company, which was now called Fourth Investments, and all of the pubs. And he then did his job, disposed of them, and I bought the football club and the property. The reason for separating the property from the football club was quite simple, was that any debt would go into the property company, and the football club would be free of debt, or at least have an overdraft, which was just an ordinary working overdraft, and we'd have one job and one job only, and that was to build a highly motivated team of people who played on the field.
Tom Farmer's shrewd business manoeuvres at last brought some stability to the club, and the fans looked forward to great things from a promising new signing who was one of them. At last, Hibs were on the right road.
That was my aim in life, to play for Hibs, you know, and you might never get another chance.
Keith had the chance to go to Aberdeen for £500,000 or come to Easter Road for £500,000, and he chose to come to us, which really said something about how he felt for the club, and it made the boys raise their eyebrows a wee bit and think, well, hang on a minute here, the manager means business. Tom Farmer's obviously come and put his money in, you know, maybe something can happen.
A new season and a new reason to believe. Except as Keith Wright said hello, the goalie was saying goodbye. Scotland keeper Andy Gorham flitted along the M8 and joined Rangers. Alex Miller had to find an experienced and level-headed keeper fast. John Burridge was the oldest professional keeper in Britain, so experience wasn't a problem. It was the level-headed bit that worried Alex.
He had done a magnificent job signing me, because I was brilliant. I was his best signing by far.
If you know him, he's a bit off-the-wall character. Maybe that's been kind to him.
How can you describe John Burridge?
John's a lunatic.
When John Burridge is happy, everybody's happy.
Sometimes he would drive, from a management point of view, he would drive you around the bend.
Turn up at training and Budgie would be ready with his boots on and his gloves, and that would be it.
Bullock make you freezing cold. I'm hard, I am.
We needed at the club somebody to come in, someone to lighten up the dressing room, somebody who was bonkers, and most certainly Budgie fitted the bill.